Crystal in Sarasota, Florida, listening on the web. Hi, Crystal.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Well, the question I have for you is, in my Sunday school class, we were reading John 3, and in verse 14, Jesus refers to Numbers, I believe 21, verse 8 and 9, where he says Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness. And I have Dr. Charles Stanley's Bible, and I've read, the commentary there. My question is, I don't understand why God would choose a serpent for the people to look for healing after being bitten by serpents, when in Genesis 3, the fall of man was, I don't want to say because of the serpent, it was because of man as well. I'm having a very difficult time wrapping my mind around that.
Yeah, so let me give you a couple of notes from my mind on this. The first thing is that this goes back, and you alluded to this, all the way back to the Old Testament, first Genesis, but also Numbers chapter 21, where the people are looking on a copper or brass serpent, and when they did, they lived, because the copper serpent signaled that the power of the venom in them was now dead. And so if you go back to the Old Testament, you see that the serpent who bit Adam in the Garden of Eden, his venom eventually caused him to die physically, to decay. So in the days Adam lived, he lived many, many years before he died, but death came into the world through sin, and therefore death came into the world through Adam, as we read in Romans chapter 5. So now when Christ is hanging on the cross, the death of Christ signals the end of the reign of death, because, as we say in the Orthodox communion, Christ trampled down death by death, and therefore those who are in the tomb receive life. So in the Old Testament, the brass serpent saved those who looked upon it. So Moses held it up, they looked upon it, and they were saved. Not because that serpent that is on the pole is alive, but because it killed, and what it killed was the power of death and sin, the besetting sin that caused the death. And so this becomes a way of us saying, "O death, where is your sting?" So as the image of a serpent was the weapon that destroyed the power of serpents, so the instrument of Christ's death becomes the weapon that overthrows death itself. And that's why you have these enigmatic words in the Gospel of John that you allude to. If I told you earthly things and you did not believe them, how will you believe if I tell you heavenly things, said Jesus. No one has ascended to heaven but he who came down from heaven, that is the Son of Man who is in heaven. And then, of course, Christ hails back or harkens back to Moses, just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. So Christ tramples on death by death.